Sent them forth to preach, and to have power to heal sicknesses and to cast out devils. And Simon he surnamed Peter. And James the son of Zebedee, and John the brother of James, and he surnamed them Boanerges, which is the sons of thunder.
Welcome to Bible Minute. I'm Mark. Today I want to talk about the April 8th eclipse. First thing I want to do is just read one quick verse. Genesis 1, chapter 1, verse 14. And God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs, comma, and for seasons, comma, and for days, comma, and years." So they're for signs. Okay, so we're going to talk about eclipses as signs. Okay, in the Jewish Talmud, believe in that solar eclipses are bad omens, and it states this in, I hope I pronounced this correctly, the Sukkah 29a is where it says that. A little bit of history on eclipses like ours that's coming up. There was one in 1811 that passed over, that formed an X like it did, passed over the New Madrid Fault, and there was a giant earthquake. There was a series of them. It rang church bells all the way up into Boston. They felt the shakes in Washington, D.C. at the White House. It was so violent of an earthquake that the Mississippi River, and this is documented, flowed backwards for 3 days. And this thing, I should say, it's over a little 200 years old. There were some eyewitness reports that said that hills moved up and down like as in waves, that they were moving up and down. And miles of earth split open and formed lakes and stuff. Other interesting fact is, during that time of the eclipse, there was also a comet that came by called Tecumseh comet, which is weird on this. Now, we come back to our eclipse and what's going on for us, and I say, okay, what's that mean? Well, we're having an eclipse that's going to actually cover the New Madrid Fault pretty much the same way. Am I saying there's an earthquake coming? No. There could be, but I don't know. There's also a comet that they call the Devil's Comet, or some people have called the Millennium Falcon Comet or Falcon Comet, it will be photobombing the eclipse from the way I understand it. It's neat because look at all this stuff and what's happening. You're like, whoa, is this a sign? Well, I read the Bible a lot, and what I came up with when I was reading it kept coming to mind was no sign except for evil, adulterous generation except for the sign of Jonah. Now I know what that means, and it's referring to Jesus and all that. But as for signs in the heavens and the stars and stuff like that, it's neat when you put all this together, because I kept thinking, how does it link all this? How does this link to now? And I drew this picture of the United States that kind of looked like a giant fish or a whale. I'll post it up here. And I'm not the only one that did that. I'll post other pictures also. And it's neat when you look at it. And then the symbol that is drawn across the United States, it looks like a giant anarchy symbol, or an A. And most people say it's anarchy, which is kind of, America is pretty much wild anyway. But there's also the A sign. And so I looked up what that was. And that comes from a book called The Scarlet Letter. A lot of people know what that is, by Nathaniel Hawthorne in 1850. And it was a letter that was read, worn by a person convicted of adultery. It was also used as a form of public shaming and punishment for one's sin and guilt during the Puritan eras. So that's kind of neat. And people say, well, Mark, you're kind of pushing it. You're kind of reaching. Well, they say NASA has confirmed that in 762 BC, that during the time of Nineveh, when Jonah was around, the Assyrian eclipse happened. and it was supposed to happen around the time of Nineveh. Can't make this up. So they had an eclipse too. Yeah, so where am I going with this? So hang on, I'm getting there. This path of the comet is going to cross over the following cities by the following name. In Texas, there is a Jonah, Texas. There is a Joppa, Texas. It's going to pass over 7 cities named Nineveh. In Arkansas, there's a city called Gord. It's going to pass over that. So, yeah, okay, it's starting to look like it. Okay. And to top it all off, the heifers, the red heifers that were sent to Israel, were born in a place called Rockwell, Texas, that the eclipse is going to pass over for about 4 minutes, and there's 4 heifers left. So, yeah, so now, the pictures I'm going to show you are kind of neat, or I've showed you some. But what I want to show you is there's a big scarlet red letter A over the United States that kind of looks like a fish. So if there's the story of Nineveh. So like he said, no sign is given except for the sign of Jonah. So if you're looking for an extra sign, is that it? Could this be it? Could we be marked? Yeah, I mean, wow. So, I do these things, and there's just too many things that come together, like the red heifers being born, the cities named Nineveh, Joppa, Gord. I mean, Jonah. I mean, the whole story is kind of being told in these eclipses. Yeah, if we indeed are Babylon, and the whore rides the beast, she would be marked with a scarlet letter, wouldn't she? Because she's a whore, adulteress. So the adulterer would be marked with a big letter. Warning the world, maybe? I don't know. Telling the world, informing the world? Yeah, maybe. I look at it as just another sign confirming the end times. And that's what I wanted to tell everybody. Until we meet again, I'm Mark. And read your Bible.